If you can't make that argument really clearly, it's probably not going to be heard.
It's almost like looking down at a chessboard. It's more complex over time.
If I'm telling my team to go think strategically, but I haven't taught them exactly what I mean by that and how to do it, then I've set them up to fail.
Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. I'm your host, Mark McGraw. Hi friends, welcome back to Building Your Sales Engine with your host, Mark McGraw. Hey, in today's episode, I sit down with Emily Jeppes and we talk about account management, key account management. And what are some of the key skills that key account managers need to have? What are they sometimes lacking when we take a look at working with these good folks? What are some of the habits and maybe the things that it's easy to fall into? And where should we be as a key account manager if we're going to operate at our very, very, very best? So we talk through what those issues are, how to go fix them. Wonderful conversation. Be on the lookout for when Emily talks about zooming out. I think that's a big one for us as well when we're managing key accounts. As always, if you'd like to get additional resources from us, jump over to buildingyoursalesengine.com/giveaway, and we have resources for you over there. Let's dive into the conversation with Emily Jeppes. Everybody, welcome back to Building Your Sales Engine. This is Mark McGraw. I have my good friend, longtime friend, and wonderful human being, Emily Jeppes, with us.
Hello.
Together today. Emily, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So glad you made the trip over from Greenville.
Yes, it's not too bad.
It's not so bad. Well, glad you're here and looking forward to hearing some thoughts that you have around key account management and some of the problems that people face. How do you overcome those problems?
Yeah.
And the like. Let's break that down and let's start with. Let me just ask you this: how do you even define key account management? Why does that exist? And then we can break this thing down further so we can get our listeners some great stuff to think about.
Yeah, really great question to start with is what does key account management even mean? And different organizations call it different things. Sometimes key account management, sometimes strategic account management and other titles. But basically the idea is you've got a sales rep who has been assigned the responsibility of holding on to and growing your very best customers, your largest, your most important, and they spend their days holding on to those customers and protecting those accounts. So that's what we mean by key account management. And usually those individuals were account managers at a lower level in the organization or at another organization at some point in their past and have grown into these roles.
And so with that, they're taking care of existing accounts. We have a care model that sometimes we reference. That, they're there to keep and expand those accounts, but they're not likely to go out and attract and attain new business always. Right. Sometimes they are. There's a lot of times there's mixed roles inside of these things.
Sure.
They're usually strategic key big accounts that they're responsible for. A lot of moving parts in these businesses.
A lot of moving parts, a lot of visibility often with these accounts to higher levels of the organization. So, even your CEO or your president, even with very large companies, may have a direct relationship in some capacity with these accounts.
Yeah, it's I had a boss that used to say to me, it's all the multi-million dollars, multiple different levels of the organization, multiple different products that you're selling into, and multiple different divisions that you got to deal with. I mean, it's all the multis.
Lots of decision makers, lots of influencers. And not always, but oftentimes these accounts are also long-standing accounts with your organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So cool. So we frame that up. When people come to you to go help them get better at that role, what are you hearing from the managers overall about why are they coming to you to go help the team? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually hearing it more and more at this moment in time. I'll keep the names of my clients, private, but I'll give you 3 examples of publicly traded companies who have all come to me with this exact same challenge in the last year. And that is that there's an overwhelming sense that our key account managers are not, and I'll put this in quotes, thinking strategically. Now, some individuals are, but as a group, they're not thinking strategically. That's one of the things that they're coming to us with. Another one is just the challenge in upskilling when you go from an account manager who's managed smaller accounts where the nature of the conversations are different to now you've been promoted to a key account manager. The skills are different in that transition, and sometimes organizations need help in upskilling those salespeople.
What's one example of a skill that someone that's a key account versus a strategic account, if you get the exact terms that we're using here, but what's one example of the levels of difference that you see?
Yes. Yeah. One key skill that's less relevant in lower level account management is, I'll call it the skill of zooming in and zooming out. In fact, Harvard Business Review, HBR, has done some great work on this that I sometimes assign to clients to read, because zooming in and zooming out means that I can look at a QBR or a meeting that I'm having with a customer and understand the larger picture and the context of this meeting. I can look at the larger picture. I can look at the data. I can look at the, what we're seeing on our end, and then figure out where I need to zoom in and go, who I need to go have a conversation with, and what levers I need to pull. That's the same skill that managers have to learn when they go from being an independent contributor to managing a group of people. They have to learn to zoom out and zoom in. And if you've never been in a role where that particular skill was really important, you don't necessarily have that skill, right?
I've kind of looked at that too as like, it's almost like looking down at a chessboard. You've got different pieces. They have different power, different ranks. And so those pieces generally are people, generally speaking, on the chessboard. You've got a position, there's competition that's going on. In a significant account, you might be playing 3D chess, you might be playing chess, but you're not playing checkers.
Right.
Or you're not playing tic-tac-toe, maybe even a level below.
Yes.
So it's still a game. There's still pieces on the board, but the complexity certainly gets more complex over time.
Yeah, I was working through an activity with a client just this week on coordinating internal meetings for key accounts, and there were, I think, close to 20 different individuals. If you combine the customer org and the dealers and the distributor contacts and the company that has the key account managers, like when you combine all of the pool of individuals that a key account manager has to coordinate in order to get things done, can be upwards of 20 people.
We have an account, so you're making me think, and internally they made a little meme graphic of the job that this person has to do. And it's a person juggling like 7 things, a chainsaw, a knife, an axe.
Right.
And that's kind of what the role is that you're moving, you're juggling a lot, and you got a lot of things in the air.
Exactly.
At any given time. Any other key things that you're seeing that people are coming to you for that they're asking about?
Yeah. So another skill, and this is related to what we were just talking about, is a failure to really effectively coordinate internal resources on behalf of the key account, the customer. And it can't just be that the key account manager, the salesperson, has their meetings with the account. They need to be coordinating a lot of different resources internally to sometimes arrange a top-to-top meeting, right? Sometimes to influence operations or logistics or some other part of the organization on behalf of that customer. Sometimes it means, hey, this customer's objectives that they're trying to accomplish, we could play a role in this, but this is a decision that would have to come from our very top to make exceptions and do some extra special things for them. And that's my job to go get that done, rather than just to say, well, I don't have that kind of power, right? So that ability to and confidence and really understanding what my role is in coordinating those internal resources is another thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's such a big deal that it seems to me like sellers, by the way, they sometimes resent the fact that they have to spend so much of their time selling within their own organization. I get
Yeah.
the sense from a lot of people, they're like, I'm the only salesperson on the planet that has to spend this much time going
Yes.
through the internal machinations of my organization. And
Yes.
the reality is every company has
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that there's a skill set that some people have and some people don't about navigating inside the organization of their own organization,
Yes.
not to mention the client, the key accounts organization.
Right. I have to sell internally, hey, our CEO or our division head, this is a really cool out-of-the-box idea, but this is a really important strategic customer of ours. Do we want to consider investing resources into this really cool idea? And that's the job of the key account manager, to be that
And it's
funnel.
that's selling.
That's selling.
It's just
Yes.
selling within the own
Exactly.
four walls.
Exactly.
We did a podcast with Steve Pop, an episode with Steve Pop. Actually, it was the very first one.
Yeah.
And it was Steve going through what are some tools to be able to sell better, effectively, internal. What's one thing that comes to your mind that helps a key account manager sell internally? Are there any kind of cool tips or ideas that you have to get them to think about leveraging internal resources better?
Yeah, for sure. So oftentimes if you are internally trying to get people on board with something that's maybe a little bit out of the box, but that ultimately everybody wins on, you have to really understand, just like you do with the customer decision makers, you have to understand your internal decision makers and what they're motivated by. What KPIs are they held accountable to? What objectives are they held accountable to? And frame whatever you're asking in the context of, how does this support our larger goals? And if you can't make that argument really clearly, it's probably not going to be heard.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point you're bringing up that it's easy to miss, and that is that whether you're selling to the key account or whether you're selling internally, you're tying any objective or move that you're making to the strategic direction of the company.
Yes.
It's almost like it gives people an excuse as a decision maker. It gives an excuse to take action because it aligns with a goal. And you want it to, of course, practically, but sometimes it's also like, well, I'm using this as cover.
Of course, yes.
To some degree.
And that's what great salespeople do, right? What do you care about? I'm going to frame this through that lens and nothing else, right?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. And I love it. It's such a good thing to go do, as you're working through an organization. I see people too in this role as a key account manager too. They really are adept at operating at every level of an organization, whether it's the C-suite, VPs, directors, managers, supervisors, right on down to frontline employees. Any thoughts around that or things that come to your mind?
Well, specifically, I think what they can do is they know how to change their messaging and even their body language and the word choice and the tonality when I am meeting with a customer or internal at the highest levels of an organization down to maybe I'm on site with an end user and that may be a very different message, different demeanor. Great salespeople are chameleons, which is not inauthentic. We do this all the time naturally, but I think that they're very good at knowing how do I need to show up and what is my goal, what is my intention in this particular conversation.
Yeah, and shaping that to each level.
Yes.
I mean, this comes up all the time is dealing with executives, man. You got the bluff method, bottom line up front, lead with what you want, things like that, and being able to shape and change that for the different levels that you're calling on.
Right. And that can be sometimes as simple as an example, how relieved and appreciative sometimes a C-level will be if you say, hey, here's a one-pager summary.
Yes.
With bullets.
You mean it shouldn't be like 17 PowerPoint slides?
No, right?
50-point font?
Yes, exactly. I made for you a one-pager with clear bullets that helps you understand exactly what's going on with this key account plan and how it relates back to our organization's larger objectives.
Yeah.
If I did that internally and then I did something like that externally with my customers, bosses, right? The bosses over there, huge, simple, and huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and I think good account managers are simplifiers.
Yes.
They can take things that are very complex and they can tie them down and they can make them easy for everybody to understand.
Yes.
So, well, you opened up an interesting, maybe you don't know it, but you'd open up to me an interesting conversation. That's key account plans. I see something with key account plans. What do you see when people?
Key account plans. So if you're a key account manager, you should have one for every key account that you manage. The key account plan should be a living, breathing document that is changing and evolving over time, that is your guiding light and instruction manual for how you work this account. It should also be able to be something that anybody in the C-suite at your organization, if they wanted to know what's going on with this very important customer of ours, they should be able to pull that out of your share drive, look at it, and know exactly how does this account fit into our larger organizational objectives? What are they trying to accomplish with their organization, and how do we fit into that picture? What are we doing to accomplish those objectives? Who are we meeting with and about what? And how are we doing so far this year? Right? They should be able to understand all of that by reading the key account plan. And
so I got a question for you. How there's a balance between, okay, we got CRM over here where people are putting in this latest meeting, and yet, I agree with you, it should be a leading, breathing document.
Yeah.
How often should these things really be updated? And I'll start there. I got another one for you too, but how often should they be updated?
Well, CRM has a different purpose than a key account plan. So your CRM is tracking the really kind of day-to-day activities that you're doing with an account. It's looking at, the status of deals that you have in the pipeline with them as you're growing that account, and who the contacts are. It can help you build out your relationship map. There are elements of the CRM that fit really nicely into the key account plan. For example, the relationship map, right? But
and you probably need to take 30 seconds to tell everybody what a relationship map is. You and I both know, but
we do. Okay, so side note, it is where I write down everybody who I know in the account that has anything to do with our work with them. And then we understand how they fit together. It is not necessarily an org chart. An org chart tells you exactly who reports to whom. Not always the most helpful in understanding how decisions are made and how influence is exerted around our exact project and work with them, right? So relationship map is very specific to our work with them, the informal relationships and influencers who have an interest, who are involved in our work with them. That can be built out in your CRM. It should also exist as something that we can reference in our key account plan. But the key account plan is different. I would say it's more of the if to use the same analogy, if the CRM is more zoomed in, the key account plan is more zoomed out.
Yeah.
It's the whole chessboard for a specific account. Now, can it live within your CRM? Sure, right? But it is a specific. It is a document or a file that tells you who's what are the objectives, what are the strategies, what are the tactics. I'll spend more time on that in a second. What meetings are we having about what? It gives you the communication plan, action plan. What type of metrics are we tracking? What are our KPIs? And is really your guiding light for that. Who all is involved? So that list of 20 people, who are they and how do they connect? And a relationship map, for example, is usually about your customer org. So it's going to show you who they are. But on a key account plan, we're also trying to understand internally who are all of the players that have to be coordinated here.
Internally, in terms of the seller's organization, or
the seller's organization. Yeah.
So a key account plan would also include, for example, if you're leveraging your CEO with their CEO, or if you're leveraging a VP of your organization as the seller, towards your mapping to the buyer's network is a phrase that sometimes we use, is you're describing and connecting multiple people from our organization, the seller, into the buyer's organization.
Exactly.
And that's going to show up in a key account plan for how you're going to go do that.
Exactly.
And so do you think that this should be updated monthly, quarterly? I mean, you can't do it daily.
No, no.
For sure, or even weekly.
No. I mean, I think the natural time to do it is if it's truly a key account, a strategic account for you, you should be having probably quarterly business reviews with them.
Yeah.
So a natural time to update it is in the preparation for that QBR, right? Which probably starts at least 30 days out from that QBR.
You know, I think one of the big mistakes that not just managers, but key account managers make, to me, is they do not have time on their calendar by which they're going to think strategically about the account.
Yeah.
And having a calendar time, whether it's once a month or once a week, is certainly frequently enough where you step away and you just kind of go to the mountaintop a little bit. And you just think about what's going on. What are the moving parts? That's a great time.
Zoom out.
Zoom out. I love the expression that you're using for that. And taking the time to go zoom out doesn't happen often enough.
No. But preparing for the QBR is a really natural opportunity for that.
It sure is.
Right.
Yeah. And QBR being quarterly
business review, strategic account review.
There's 100 names for that, by the way. I think we both learned.
It's where we sit down with our customer and we talk about the relationship. It's not your day-to-day orders.
Yeah.
Right. It's the zoomed out meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll zoom in on some things that are important, but it's a zoomed out meeting.
So okay, let's take a minute on that as well, because when you run a QBR and it's tied in with the key account plan and all of the above. So when can we talk a minute about QBRs? And
absolutely.
And again, we'll say quarterly business review, QBR. Again, I could probably give you 10 other three-letter acronyms that businesses use, but this would be a review, sometimes even monthly, that a company has. What are you seeing that the best key account managers do, and what are some of the problems that you hear from them as key account managers that when they go to their clients, that these QBR meetings are falling short or not going as planned?
Well, really good question, because if you ask the salespeople versus ask the customer versus ask the leaders, you might get different answers, right? I definitely know key account managers who do an exceptional job of preparing for their QBRs. They are the example. That's what we want to replicate. And what they do well is they start preparing for their QBR probably 30 days out. And they start coordinating internal resources. And they'll even sit down and have, for everybody that's going to be in that meeting internally, they will sit down and do a run through of these are the questions we're likely to get asked, and here's how we're going to handle it. And they really fully prepare for game day, right? Now, what is the biggest mistake that I see is the mistake that we as salespeople, and I put myself in this category because I am a salesperson through and through and still sell every day. We tend to rely on our skills to wing it. We are very, as a breed, I'm not throwing shade, we are wired that way, right? So that's why we've got to have structures in place to make sure that we actually do the preparation that is necessary. That is the number one mistake. I'm not preparing. If I ask leaders what they hear, yes, some of our folks aren't fully preparing for it. Another one is it's a very one-way conversation. So we're showing up to our customer to say, here's the scoreboard of how you're doing against our metrics and our expectations, and not as much of a dialogue. Now, sometimes, often, we'll say to the customer, by the way, this is a conversation.
Yes.
Stop and ask questions at any point in time. We want this to be a conversation.
That's so funny.
But they can tell we don't mean it, And
they proceed to go on and talk for the next 25 minutes.
Exactly. And it's a monologue. And sometimes these QBRs are like 4 hours long, a 4-hour monologue about how you're doing against our expectations. Then we also hear our customers don't want to meet with us.
I wonder why.
Right? They say, no, we don't need to do a QBR. We're good.
Yeah, let's skip this one.
Right. We can skip this one. So that's we know how this happens.
And to me, whenever I hear that, I'm like, it screams at me, and this is not going to sit well with some people, but when they want to postpone it, what that really says is that they haven't seen value in the past QBRs.
Bingo. Bingo. Now, can we right the ship? Absolutely. We've got loads of Sandler techniques that can help us do that, right? We can make calls out to our influencers and champions ahead of time and really set up good, strong, what we would call an upfront contract, which is getting on the same page about why we want to have this meeting, what the intent is, what's in it for them, importantly, right? And really get their buy-in around being there. We can right the ship, but we've got to recognize the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think an interesting thing that happens in these things, at least that I've seen, is that they become very tactical conversations as opposed to strategic.
Right.
And then the next thing that happens as a result of that, the senior leadership who used to be into QBRs starts to miss them because we're talking about tactics, not strategy. And then now we ask ourselves, we've lost relationships with the senior people, which we should be having through the QBRs. And now we're saying, how do I get re-engaged? I mean, it's this cycle of events that starts with those QBRs being tactical, not strategic in nature.
100%. And on that note, I want to address something that I think is a foundational issue around all of this. And this really falls in the lap of the sales leaders to correct. A foundational issue that I see is that we are all not on the same page about what we mean by thinking strategically.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling my team to go think strategically, but I haven't taught them exactly what I mean by that and how to do it, then I've set them up to fail.
Yeah.
Right? That sales leaders, we have to own that. We need to teach them. These are the objectives that we have for our organization. You are part of that strategy. So for example, our objective is that we want to increase new business revenue by 20% this year. Okay. You, key account managers, are part of our organization strategy to do that. What our strategy is, we put you in place not only to hold on to what we have, but also to increase, to grow that account in the form of new business as well, right? So what tactics are you going to use to get that done? That's the zoomed out objective strategy tactics, right? Then we zoom in. Now I'm a key account manager, and I've been told I need to go to grow my accounts by 5% as part of this larger organizational objective. Well, that's my objective. Now I've got to have strategies to do that. And then I've got to have tactics that back that up. So for example, if I'm supposed to grow my accounts by 5%, one of my strategies might be to identify the accounts that I think have expand opportunity and not just keep opportunity. Where is their business where maybe we don't have the wallet share that we would like to have? Maybe they have some divisions that we're not working with, product lines that we're not working with. Identify who those are and target those. That's one of my strategies. Well, then my tactic is I've got to find a way to bring that up in the QBRs, right? And I've got to prepare for that. And so we're all guilty of this. We as a culture, business culture, are guilty of throwing around the word strategic and meaning 50 different things by it.
Yeah.
And it's in context, right? So then no surprise when we say, hey, key account managers, we want you to think more strategically. And they come to me and they say, and they say, our key account managers aren't thinking strategically. We can't blame them.
Yeah.
Right? We need to get on the same page. How do we do that? Well, we've got to sit down with our key account managers and ask them to go back to their key account plans and pull out the objectives and identify the strategy, identify the tactics, help teach them what we mean by that, have them take a shot at it, then work on it together.
And have I think too, what you're saying too, is have a framework by which what does a key account plan look like that's a good one. Don't have 10 of them. I've seen this mistake made over and over. I made this mistake where I went to my people and I said, I'd like to see your thinking on what a key account plan would look like.
Yes.
Put one together for me. I say that to 10 people. I get 10 different versions of a key account plan, most of which are a 2 out of 10.
Right.
Because they do it once a year and they don't know what
it sits on a shelf in a file in the SharePoint.
And I didn't explain what a good key account plan would be as a manager in the first place. So So one thing that I think we're saying here is go get a consistent, thorough key account plan that everyone can follow. That's a guidebook for how you're going to manage this account.
Right. And even when that's the case, it's got to be clear about the objectives, strategies, and tactics.
Yeah.
So there should be alignment. Every tactic relates back to a strategy. Every strategy relates back to an objective. And what I have seen is that even when there is a template that everyone is supposed to follow, that is prescribed by the organization, this is our key account plan template, it's interpreted by every individual in radically different ways, right? So it's not just enough to have a template. We also have to teach them how to use it. And often, I have yet to see one where objective strategies and tactics are actually explicitly mapped out in alignment.
To the company's goals?
Yes.
You're making me think. I've never thought of this before, but I don't know that I've ever seen a key account plan ever. And I'm approaching 30 years of sales management.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but I've never seen a page where a manager's given a key account plan to a key account manager where the first page was, here are our business goals. We're going to grow sales by this. We need to sell these products over here. I've never seen a key account plan that has the business goals that give the guidance and framework for the key account managers to say, how can I manage my account to go help achieve the business goal?
Exactly.
I'm having a moment.
Right. And that falls on the laps of the sales leaders. We can fix this, right? Organizations are doing it all.
It's not hard.
We can help, but we can fix this, right? But we can't expect them to behave differently and treat their accounts differently if we don't give them the support to do that.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense. Any big picture, maybe even some final thoughts that you have around how does a sales leader help their key account teams? How do you do this? How do you do it? How do you help these people be able to pull these things together so they improve their skills, they're thinking strategically, they're zooming out, and I love that expression to think about it because that's what it takes.
Yeah.
What are some things on that side that you see that either you help people with or that managers can help with?
Yeah. Two big things. One we just talked about, which is really having a retraining, a reskilling of your team about what are we trying to accomplish? What is our customer trying to accomplish? How do those things align? What are the strategies? What are the tactics? Help them get on the same page and make that explicit in your key account plans, right? That's one thing that leaders can do. The other thing that we can do is we've got to scrap the way things have always been done. So what we often find is that if you ask a salesperson or a key account manager, why are you having this monthly recurring meeting with the customer's logistics team? Because when I took over the account, that was a standing meeting that the previous key account manager had. Okay. Is that still the case? Do we still need to do that? And so it can be a really cool exercise to say, I'm going to scrap all of the meetings that I have planned with my customer. And I'm just going to look at my goals and my tactics, my strategies. And I'm going to build from scratch. Let's pretend I didn't have all of these things going. If I were really trying to accomplish these goals, who would I need to be meeting with? About what? And how often? Do I need to have top-to-top meetings? If so, with whom and how often? How do I prepare our executives for that? How do I get the buy-in from their executives? If I currently have a standing meeting with the logistics team, let's say once a month, is that meeting maybe better served by every other month doing 30-minute one-on-ones with the individuals in that meeting and then coming together quarterly? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, right?
But start with a clean slate.
But start with a clean slate.
Reevaluate the whole thing.
And reevaluate the whole thing. Here's how we've always done it. Does it actually serve our goals?
Yeah.
That is it's not easy, but it's simple thing that sales leaders can do with their team to get them on the right track.
Yeah, I love that. And really in some respects, a good, back to the key account plan, a good key account plan will have a roadmap for the whole year, a timeline, a calendar of what are the major touch points and at what level of an organization are we going to have interaction with as well.
Yeah.
I love the point that you're bringing up too of, hey, let's get these things updated at least quarterly. This should not be something that goes on the shelf or these days goes into
In SharePoint.
SharePoint and then not reopened again
Exactly.
until the end of the year when the objectives for commission payouts and bonuses come
Right.
out. And completed account plan for the year,
Yeah.
box checked, you know, get my money.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Really should be done. And I think one last thought that I'd like to include on that too is this. A key account plan is not there necessarily just for your manager.
No.
A key account plan should be the forced thinking that me as a key account manager, I force myself to think about. It's not the product of a key account plan to me. It is. It's the thinking that goes into
Beautiful.
it.
Yes. Yes. Well, we're Sandler trainers, right? So we use all sorts of what we call thinking tools.
Yeah.
They're not fancy, right? Most of them, but the purpose of them is to make us sit down and think about things that maybe we weren't thinking about.
In a structured way.
In a structured way. And that's exactly, I love what you're saying about that. Yeah. That's what a key account plan should do. It should force me to think about it in a structured way.
Yeah, awesome. Emily, how do people get in touch with you? I've loved the conversation with you. I'm looking forward to doing it again. And how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about Emily Jeppes?
Very cool. So easiest thing to do is to find me on LinkedIn. So it's Emily Jeppes. I've got a last name that people either butcher or completely avoid saying altogether. It's Y as in yellow, E, P as in Peter, E-S. But it's pronounced like a J because I married a Colombian, and that's what they do.
That's how they roll.
That's how they roll. The Y's are J's. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So if people have questions for Emily, please reach out to Emily over there. I've so enjoyed having you, on the show. And I got a page of notes and had a couple of moments there myself.
Awesome.
So it's great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hey, I hope you've gotten a ton of value out of this episode. By far, it's our purpose to help people make money and have fun and have a good time. We're here to help improve your life, to help you make it easier to go sell or to manage your sales team, and ultimately to go build your own sales engine. Don't miss an episode. Best way to go do that is to make sure that you jump out to buildingyoursalesengine.com/follow, where you can link up to all of our latest episodes. For more information about this episode, go to buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can download show notes, transcripts, and other information, including handouts and snapshots of this and other episodes. If you'd like to connect with us to talk about how we can help you build your sales engine, and you are either located in the state of Georgia or are referred to us by one of our clients or affiliated by one of our clients, please reach out to us at buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can click there to book some time with us. We can find out how we can be of help with one another. If you're not in either of those two circumstances, please reach out to Sandler.com, where you can find a Sandler office near you. Be well.